Hi, this is Peggy at Headshots by Peggy, and today John SWANBECK is going to join us via Zoom, and we are going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
Yes, I'm doing a lot of online coaching, especially during the weeks when NCIS was holding auditions. I think everyone in town was auditioning for NCIS, and so I was doing a lot of online coaching for that. And I'm running 3 online master classes.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I just finished one this morning. So I have one on Sunday mornings, one on Sunday afternoons, one on Monday mornings.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, I have a good amount of people from Los Angeles, but I have people from all over the country and overseas as well. Spain, Paris, Australia, and different places around the country as well. So those are going really well. It's a real master class. I start with a mini lecture on um, bringing the camera's perspective to the actor's process and creating cinematic power on camera and creating the way the camera thinks. And then everyone has scenes or monologues, and they implement some of my techniques that I outlined in the opening lecture. And then I direct them as we go along and put other insights and techniques on the table. And the actors really like it. So that's been interesting.
This might have kind of been a blessing in disguise for you as far as coaching, because it's kind of opened up the online coaching. Maybe you hadn't thought of doing one-on-one or master classes online to the extent that you're doing them now. So maybe that's opened up, instead of you just working with LA talent, maybe it's opened you up a little bit more. What do you think?
I think so. I think so. There's a lot of people that have always wanted to work with me who haven't been in LA. And I would even hear from time to time, do you have an online class? Do you have an online class? And I just had never gotten it together. I've done online coaching for some time via Skype. Now, of course, Zoom is everything. But there are a lot of people. There are people in the classes who are very appreciative that they finally get a chance to work with me because they wanted to work with me for a long time. So yeah, that's been pretty good. And I was only setting them up to be for a certain number of weeks, but they've gone really well, and the actors really like them. And I've heard other actors express an interest in joining. So I think I'm going to just keep running those classes. They'll be on an ongoing basis. Maybe all 3 of them, maybe just 2 of them. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but at least a couple of them.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I mean, why not take I know it was a scramble, especially in the beginning. You and I talked, and you were like, "Hey, I'm like trying to figure out this online thing, and I'm overwhelmed." But now it kind of pushed you over the edge to kind of like, okay, now I've got to get it together. I've got no choice. So
Right. Yeah. No, it did. It did force me. It's I I assumed it would go fairly well, but I'm surprised at how well it's gone. The actual class itself, the work in the class is really, really good. And the format of me giving a mini lecture and then directing people as they do their scenes and monologues and really seems to work. I hear from actors, I get follow-up texts and emails from actors, for a couple of days after the class saying how much they liked it and how great it was, et cetera, et cetera. I love the class. I love what I'm learning. It's going really well. And so they really seem to be responding. So that feels really good. I've always thought that an online class was going to be sort of a class that's produced, and then you just
right.
release versus a live online class. And that's still one of my goals this year, that and get out my second book. But yeah, the online classes, the live online classes are going really well. It's amazing. The work is really, really good. You can really see it. I was wondering if Zoom was going to translate, because when I do my in-person classes and the monitor's right there, you can see the difference. You know, when I give a direction or I make adjustments, you can definitely see the difference. And it's right there on the monitor. Everyone in the room sees it. It's a beautiful picture, beautiful lighting, beautiful sound. And I just didn't know how Zoom would translate, but translates really well. And you can really see the difference in the work. So it's great. And of course, people can record their work. You know, we all know you can do that on Zoom. So.
Yeah, I'm super impressed with Zoom. I taught I was a speaker in a online, well, it was supposed to be a live conference, and they switched it to a Zoom conference. And there was about 70 to 80 people in this conference. And I was pretty nervous about how that was going to translate. And then, you know, we broke into smaller groups, you know, for Q&As. And I was surprised how wonderful it is. So I can see, you know, how, you know, working, and because you're on camera anyway, so you give me a direction, and, you know, everybody's seeing me take that direction. So I can see that. I'm impressed with this. This is, like I said, I think people that are waiting for the world to go back to normal, that's not going to happen. We're never going to go back to the way things were. Normal is going to be a different thing, and so it'll be exciting to see how things move going forward. You know, it's kind of funny watching, you know, commercials now, because commercials are recorded on Zoom or recorded at home, and you know, we're going to be a lot of changing, but the principles are still the same. People still need to understand how to communicate with the camera, how to act and, you know, do things. It's just we may be doing things a little different for a while.
Yeah, I think so. So what I'm trying to do with my classes is prep people to run businesses, and, you know, movie and TV businesses back up and running in whatever form it's going to be in. I'm using these classes to prep people for that time. Mm-hmm. Not only showing them to be more powerful on camera and how to create from the camera's perspective, but develop characters, their kind of audition characters, their you know, whatever characters are castable versions for them. You know, their little side bag of characters, you know, the kind of projects they want to do, the kind of characters they want to do. So I'm using it as a chance to not only teach them about the camera and how to create cinematic power, but to develop little audition reels, you know, character clips and audition reels, so that when the business is back up and running, you know, they're ready to hit the ground, you know.
I think that there's going to be a lot, even when things get going again, that self-tape auditions are going to be, until they get things figured out to where you can wait in a waiting room again. I think there's going to be a lot of self-tapes auditions.
I think so too.
That's something that, you know, you and I, you know, we talk all the time. People should be every single day in front of the camera, you know, practicing and knowing what they look like. And if they haven't taken our advice, you know, they're behind the curve right now, but now's the time. If you've got to be doing this every day, how do I look on camera? How, you know, this is, you've got to do it. You've got to have your setup at home. You've got to be ready to do this, because when you do get an audition, you don't want to be worried about the technical stuff, like, oh, where do I set the camera? Where do I set the lights? You want to just be ready, and that part of it be natural.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. No, definitely people need to get that together, because that's definitely the way it's going to be sometime. If not, you know, it could just be that way from now on.
Yeah, I took advantage of this. to upgrade my sound equipment, and I had already just upgraded some camera equipment. So I was like, well, when the social distancing thing is released a little bit, I'm going to have people in a lot. I've already had a lot of people come in to do self tapes, but now it's going to be more and more. And, and also voiceover stuff is a big thing. That's a lot of auditions that we're seeing is voiceover stuff. So
Interesting.
So I was like, well, I guess it's time to upgrade
Right.
and jump on and, get a professional setup and not just, good enough for a vlog. So, I kind of took this time, and I've been taking classes and, learning different aspects of, because I was always very comfortable with just doing, headshots and still photography, and then
Right.
just winging it for everything else. But I've decided I better up my game.
That's
Because
great.
it's not going to go away.
Right. That's great.
Yeah. So what else what else good has come out of this terrible time?
Well, I'm definitely going to I'm definitely going to produce the online class I'm talking about, and it's also kicked my writing into high gear. I'm in the process of writing the next book, how to direct actors like a pro and look like a genius doing it, and I'll produce the class. It's kicked my writing into gear, so I think it's accelerated my writing timeline because I've got a series of 5 books that I'm planning on. This is the first one. One I just mentioned, how to direct actors like a pro and look like a genius doing it. Second one, and then I've got a third, a fourth, and a fifth. So all of that stuff was kind of dragging, and now it's not dragging anymore. It's just it's on the front burner.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So I'm looking forward to getting those out. And then just thinking about how I can communicate to actors, to help them. Like you said, they're all going to be doing self-tapes. And so I'm trying to figure out ways to teach them how to self-direct, how to direct themselves, to get more castable takes, to get more, just more cinematic takes when they do their online stuff. The whole Zoom idea is teaching us how to think about the camera more. But because they're isolated, doing a lot of self-tapes on their own without any kind of a direction, trying to figure out how to articulate my ideas and my concepts into more simple forms so that actors can direct themselves. They can create characters more quickly that are castable versions of themselves, and how to make the kind of choices that instantly make them look like they belong on camera. With the online class that I'm doing, I did the whole first week was on character, and talking to them about showing them how to create characters in such a way that they look instantly more castable on camera, because they still have the same issues of doing great scene analysis process and connecting with the material and being real, and not creating a character because they're taught don't create a character, which is the biggest myth. They're taught is don't create a character. The character is you. You are the character. There's no character. If you create a character, it's going to be fake. And so I'm trying to show them ways they can direct themselves to actual castable versions of themselves where they create characters. Because they're really on their own now. They've got coaching. Some of their classes are gone, and they need to understand that they still need to create character the way the camera thinks about character and the way professionals think about character. So last week I had a whole theme on just character, and this week I had a whole theme on just how to approach the scene And with those two elements, just those two elements, how to think about character, the way the camera thinks about character, and how to think about the scene, the way the camera thinks about the scene, just those two elements can make somebody instantly castable. I can show them how to do 1,000 things. I can say 1,000 things, but if they can just wrap their heads around those two concepts, it's a myth that they are the character and the character is them, and they shouldn't create a character. They absolutely should create a character as the camera sees the character, and they should absolutely figure out how to play the scene in such a way that the camera thinks about the scene. They're so devoted to their actor process and their scene analysis process, and being real and being connected, all of which is important, but they think it's the end result. So, I'm just focusing on just those two things. If I can focus on just getting them to understand that they need to create character as the camera sees about character. And I just published this thing last night, and it's one of the things I published that gets a lot of people. A lot of people love it. A lot of people up in arms. And it goes like this. The reason we have dialogue in film is because somebody invented sound, not because we needed dialogue to move an audience with a character's story told on film. And now dialogue is integral to the process, but the fact remains the camera was created to capture character as it exists without any dialogue. And so I'm trying to get actors to understand their characters are separate from scenes. Theater is very literary, and it's all about the material, and that's one of the reasons why actors love theater. It's because they really get great material. But the camera is all about character, and character as it exists without any dialogue. So you talk to them about using their actor instrument, their hearts, their eyes, their body, their voice, their perspective, their attitude, to create a character that the camera would recognize in a heart-wrenching breakup scene or ordering coffee at Starbucks. And you get them to create the character without the material. I'm going to start folding that into my classes, where we work on character with material, and then you put the material down, and the character has to survive any other material. Once you create your character, I should be able to give you any scene when you see the same character. So something I'm going to do is have them create their character with whatever scene they bring in, and then put that scene down and pick up another scene. And can we see the character? Is the character going to survive the second scene? And if the character can't survive the second scene, if the character is scene contingent, then we don't have character. We can't take away all the words and still see the character. We don't have a character. Not a character that the camera is going to recognize or that is going to look castable. So I've never done that in my in-person classes, but now that I'm trying to figure out ways to get them to almost be able to direct themselves, that's something that I'm going to start doing. And I think that's really kind of cool. And it's the same with when they approach a scene. They're so, like I said, devoted to their actor process and to their scene analysis process that they refuse to stray from it. And they think everything is about getting what's on the page right, getting it right and getting it work. And they don't understand that most of what the writer's written isn't on the page. Any good writers I know will say that writing's not about what you write, it's about what you don't write. And good writers leave all of, it's what's on the page is the tip of the iceberg. And what's below the surface, the rest of the iceberg, those are the ideas that you can bring to the page to make choices that are going to pop. If actors just play the material the way it's written, they're not going to pop on camera. It's going to be flat and one-dimensional. If this is a scene and there's a character, it's an argument scene. character arguing. And I'm a really good actor and I come in and I play the scene just as it's written. Well, that's going to be flat and one-dimensional. That's the definition of flat and one-dimensional. But that's what they're taught to do, is just get the scene right. And I've seen really good actors fall through the cracks because they're really good at their process. And they're so good at it, they refuse to veer from it or bring anything else to the table. But if this is the scene, and I do a really good job of playing the scene, I'm flat and one-dimensional. But if I come at it like this, well, now I'm interesting. And if I come at it like this, well, then now I'm really interesting. And if I come at it like this, then I'm fascinating. If I come at it from over here, then I'm funny. If I violate the 90-degree angle, then I'm funny. But they're so afraid to step away from the scene because they're taught that's their job. Their job is to get the scene right. And what's on the page is what they have to capture. And what's on the page is, like I said, a small percentage of what the writer wrote, and actors need to learn how to bring ideas to the page that aren't there. And filmmakers and casting people will say all the time, make a choice, make a choice, make a choice. And the actor will say, well, I was making a choice. I played this beat this way, and I played this moment this way, and I played this section this way. And that's not what making a choice is. Making a choice is something you bring to the entire scene, not just for a part of it. You bring it to the entire scene and sustain it for the entire scene. That's a choice. You're bringing a new dimension to the scene, a new level, a new layer. And that's what making a choice is. And that's what they want actors to do. They want actors to come in and make a choice. No director, no casting director wants somebody who's going to come along and just do what's on the page, because now you're not a contributing member of the creative team. We all have to think of ourselves as filmmakers. Actors are just filmmakers who are actors versus filmmakers who are DPs versus filmmakers who are sound recorders, filmmakers who are set designers. The actor is a filmmaker. And an audition is an interview to see if you're a filmmaker. The audition is an interview to see if you know how to create on camera and make something cinematic. The point of an audition is not to see if you can get the scene right. You can get the scene right. Everyone expects you to be able to get the scene right. But that's not the job interview. The job interview is, what can you create? It's character. Job interview is character. Can you create the character that filmmakers and the casting people want? And then, do you know how to bring ideas to the table that aren't there already? No director wants to hire a bunch of actors and then have to come up with all the ideas. And I've talked to some actors every once in a while, hear an actor say, I thought my job was to get the scene right, and then the director will tell me what to do. The director doesn't want to have to do that. The director wants to make a movie, and communicate a story, and communicate ideas. And it's everyone else's job to bring the director options for how to implement her or his idea. It's not the job of the director to it's not the job of the director to make the DP's work look like it works on camera. And it's not the director's job to make the actor's work look like it belongs on camera. The interview of everyone on the team and the audition in terms of the actors, it's all to find people who know how to make a movie, who think like filmmakers, who create like filmmakers. And actors just generally don't do that. Those are the two things. They generally don't create a character. And if they don't create a character, they're going to be unforgettable within minutes. Within minutes, you will be unforgettable. And if you just do the scene the way it's written, you will be forgettable. Those are the two fastest ways to become forgettable on camera. Don't create a character, just be yourself and be real. And don't create anything that's not on the page. Those two things will make you instantly forgettable. So all you need to do is you need to start thinking about character, that can exist outside of any material. And a character that we would recognize in a heart-wrenching breakup scene or ordering coffee from Starbucks. And bringing a choice to the table that in order to play the scene that's not on the page. Those two things alone can make an actor instantly castable. I see it all the time. I see it in these online classes that I'm doing, where I'm focusing just on those two things, and people are becoming instantly castable. Now I'm going to focus on other things, bring other things to the table. I started with those because those are the two most important, and it really has reminded me of it's really those two concepts. If actors could just figure out those two concepts, and they tend not to. And you know, the stage is, like I said, the stage is about analyzing the text and playing the text and exploring the text. But we all know that not all film and TV scripts are great in terms of the dialogue. Not all of them have great dialogue. Some of them do. But a lot of them, the script and the dialogue exists for everyone to hang a story on, and to hang characters on, to hang a world on. And any of us would be hard pressed to remember the dialogue from some of our favorite film and TV shows. We remember the characters, remember the events, remember what happens. But in many cases, the dialogue's there just to serve the world and the story and the film. And so actors really need to think about what the film camera is really there to explore, if it's not there to explore the text, and it's there to explore human behavior. That's the way I look at it. For me, all of this is just exploration of human behavior in the film frame. We're all, I sort of see myself as a cinematic explorer and poet, and I'm just exploring human behavior in the film frame. And whereas on stage, we explore the script, in the film frame, you're exploring characters and stories and worlds. And because actors are, like I said, they're so concerned with being right all the time, we're not creating real, believable characters. And the reason we're not creating real, believable characters is because human beings are illogical and irrational, and we're contradictions. We don't make sense. And yet, actors are taught to make sense of everything, make sense of the script, make sense of the characters, put everything together the way it's supposed to be, put everything together so it's right. And I'm starting to work more on that in my classes, where I'm getting actors to bring human behavior to the table and to the scripts and to the characters versus just a choice that would be good for the scene. I'm talking about just the human condition. None of us are the same, but we share the same we share the same emotions, we share the same feelings, we share the same instincts. We're all 7 billion of us are really from the same tribe. And so it's exploring what makes any human being tick. And because we are so illogical and irrational and we don't make sense, finding the choices that don't make sense is one of the fastest ways to becoming castable on camera. I know it doesn't make sense, but if you can bring choices to the table that are illogical, get everything right, sure. Get the script right, get the scene right, do all of your scene analysis process, which is essential. But then you bring something to the table that doesn't fit. It's the fastest way to become castable. You'll be instantly memorable.
So I think that's amazing what you said about being able to carry the character, because I know you've said in the past, like, you should be able to recognize that character in a line at Starbucks, like without any words being said. And I think emphasizing that is amazing. I think that's really valuable, that a lot of people don't take the time to think about in that direction. You know, people think about, oh, I need to memorize, or I need to know the lines, but they don't think about, I need to become this character that's castable.
Right. And yeah, I think it's one of the biggest disconnects between their process, the actor's process, and what works on camera and what people are looking to cast. And I tell actors all the time, the best way to prep for an audition or a job is to create the character and then put the scene down and walk and talk, go around walking and talking and living as the character. Go about your day. We all walk through our apartments as we're going about our day, and we're thinking about this and we're thinking about that, and we're sort of talking to ourselves about this and talking to ourselves about that. And I'm saying just do all of that in character. If your character can exist without dialogue, then you know you have a character. So it's the best way to prep for an audition or a job is create a character, put down the material, and just exist. Improvisationally exist as the character. Your audition's going to be better, and your shoots are going to be better. And anytime anyone on a shoot is ready to shoot you, you're going to be fine. You're going to have a character. Characters that you need in order to shoot something. You need the character, and then the dialogue second. So, you have to be able to create a character that can exist without character, and the best way to prep for an audition or a shoot is to create the character and then put the material down. And I tell actors when a director's about to shoot a take, the director calls action, not words. So that's not the primary thing that's going to be captured on camera. It's the action or the character, as it were. And I think I was talking about how to be interesting on camera and create interesting characters. And the actor's process, unfortunately, just teaches actors how to be right and logical. And if you want to create a real character, a real human being, an interesting human being, you have to create the illogical. You have to create the irrational. You have to create the things that don't make sense. So by all means, do your work on the character. Do your work on the scene and get it right. And then all you need is one idea. One idea threaded through the whole scene. It's a character, then it's a characteristic. One characteristic that's illogical, irrational, doesn't make sense, doesn't fit the whole equation. Or if it's a scene, it's an emotion or a perspective on the scene that doesn't make sense. One idea can make the difference between being cast and not cast. Because everyone will get it right, you'll get it right, everyone will get it right. And then one person is going to go in and create something that doesn't seem to fit, and everyone's going to be thinking, what is that person, but that one person, there's something about that, I don't know what it is, I can't put my finger on it, doesn't make sense. It's more real on camera because it's a human being, that's the way human beings are, and it's more interesting. It's just the definition of interesting. So those two things are the two things that actors can think about to completely change their numbers in terms of getting cast. Character, it's not who they are. It's somebody who could exist without the dialogue, and approaching the scene in such a way that it's not just what's on the page. And I would think this is the really fun, creative stuff. This is where actors get to create, they get to invent. And because I trust their process, I think, more than they do. I trust because, they're really good at their process, and they really, really spend a lot of time on their process. They're going to get it right. They're going to get the story right. They're going to get the scene right. They're going to get the character right. Going in and playing with ideas that don't seem to fit, with ideas that are interesting. Interesting is more important than being right on camera. Going in and playing with interesting ideas once you get it right isn't going to hurt anything. It's not as though the scene is going to disappear and the character is going to disappear and all the things that you were supposed to do by following the rules. It's not as though that's going to go away. you're so good at your process, you created the story, you're connecting with the material, and you created the story, and you created all the ideas, that's not going to go anywhere.
Interesting is more important than right. I love that. That's
Well, I
true.
think interesting is more important than right in life too, but certainly
Exactly.
on camera. It's just the way the camera was designed. The
I
camera
would
was
rather hang out with somebody that was interesting than someone that was always right.
right, and the actor's process um, tends to create something that's not interesting because it answers all of the questions, it spells everything out, and it adds everything up logically. So there's nothing left to the imagination for the audience or the camera. And I've seen great actors fall through the cracks because they're so devoted to the actor's process that almost to a fault,
Uh-huh.
and they won't veer away from it. And I think this is the fun part. This is the inventive part, and you know, it's what directors want. They want people who are going to bring ideas to the table that someone else hadn't thought of. No director is looking to lead an actor, you know, by the hand through process towards an interesting choice. That's not their job. And if actors were taught that that's what the director is going to do, you take care of your process, and then the director will make it all work on camera. If they were taught that, they were misled. There's no way a director is looking for that. The director doesn't have time. The director's too busy. You know, on a typical project, there's hundreds of people for the director to deal with. The director doesn't have time to figure out everything. Now, the director wants to have a conversation with the actor, explore character and explore story, but with somebody who's going to put interesting ideas on the table. Anyone can read the script and know, well, this is what's right and what it's supposed to be. We don't need that. We need someone who's going to take care of all that, but then bring in something else, add something else to the equation.
That's phenomenal. I think that's something that that's why I love talking to you, because you always look at things just from a slightly different angle than the mainstream, and that's why I think that your information is so phenomenal, because you know, just like you said, you can have a great actor, but why aren't they booking? Why are they slipping through the cracks? Because they're so consumed with being perfect that they forget that humans aren't perfect. They
Right.
forget that, you know, it's okay to, you know, let that character out. And who is that? Who is that character? Because would you hang out with that character? Is this a character that makes sense in this scenario, in this world? And I think that's very important. That makes sense to me.
Right, and they're afraid to do it, and they also don't think that they're supposed to do it. Actors, for some reason, they think everybody is as concerned with their process as they are. They think that auditions, people are sitting at a little checklist. Was the person real? Did they connect? Did they listen? Did they react? Did they play their different line readings on their different moments? No one does that. No one wakes up in the morning. No person auditioning for something wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh, I really hope an actor comes in today who's really connected to the material." That's never been said. Now, they do say they want real, but they want real. When filmmakers, casting directors say they want real, they're talking about something different than when actors talk about being real. Actors are talking about connecting with the material and having their moments be real.
Oh.
And filmmakers and casting directors, when they say real, they want real characters. That's why sometimes, you know, actors will roll their eyes and say they don't want an actor, they just want the real character. Well, I would say then if you're really good at being an actor, then you'll convince us you really are the character. But what they're talking about is real human beings. That's what filmmakers and casting people mean when they say real. They want real human beings, and or actors who are going to create real human beings. And if an actor wants to create a real human being, start making choices that are illogical and irrational and don't make sense. That's what creates a real human being. But actors think about real in terms of I've connected the material and I was playing real moments. Nobody has ever woken up on the day of auditions and said, we hope somebody real comes in the room, in the sense that actors think about real. They may have said it in terms of how they think about real, but it's a very different thing. They've never said, I hope somebody connected comes into the room. I hope someone comes into the room who gets the scene right. We don't.
How many actors have you worked with for, you know, an audition, and they go audition and then they text you or they call you and say, oh man, I don't know, I think I blew it. I didn't connect the way I wanted to. I just think I blew it in the audition room. And then 5 hours later or the next day they text you, they're like, I booked that, or I got a call back.
Right.
And, you know, so I think it's sometimes that's what you're talking about, is when you're not so worried about your process, and in the actor's mind, they let their guard down and they actually played a real human. They felt like they blew the audition, but that was exactly what they were looking for, is that flaw or whatever. So
right.
I mean, you know, I'm sure that's happened to you a lot. I know actors that, you know, I talk to, my clients, Merrick, you know, numerous times have said, oh, I blew that audition, and oh, I got a call back, or oh, I booked it. You know, it's the next thing that comes out.
And it's because at the time it didn't feel the way they're taught it's supposed to feel when they do their process right. When they do their process right, it's supposed to feel a certain way. That's what they learn in acting class. So they base everything on how it felt. Did it feel real? Did I feel connected? And so that's why they'll walk out of the audition, because probably the reason they got the callback was they weren't so real and they weren't so connected in terms of the way they think about it.
Yeah.
And it's just like when a filmmaker is doing a take and they'll say, hey, we got it, that was brilliant. And the actor will be like, oh, really? Can we do it again? It didn't really feel right. And everyone's thinking, well, in all due respect, and I mean this sincerely, it doesn't matter how it felt to you. What matters is it believable to the audience. And oftentimes the actor will do a take and it didn't feel the way they were taught it was supposed to feel based on their process, and were they real and connected, and then so they think it's a bad take. And when I work with an actor and I try to pull them out of their process to create more cinematically, I see it all the time. They'll say, oh, that didn't quite feel right. And everybody in the room is saying, that was so much better. Or then I show the actor the footage afterwards and they'll say, wow, I thought that was going to look terrible because it felt terrible, but it really looked great. They are too devoted to their process. And I'm not saying don't work your process and don't be good at your process, but they're so devoted to it, they can't think beyond it. And it's one of the things that gets them into trouble. Because quite often they'll do an audition and they'll think, wow, I nailed that. That felt real. That felt connected. And it was probably boring because they were just so devoted to the actor process. I'm not saying don't take care of the actor process. I'm actually saying I think I trust it more than you do. Because if the actor's process really does work, then you shouldn't have to be so obsessed with making sure it's always working. If the process is really good, then it should start to take care of you. The process was designed to do away with itself so that you don't have to go through it every time you're playing a scene or every time you're doing a movie. You have to go through a process. Can you imagine if every time someone needed a direction from the director needed to go through a process to come up with a direction? The actor's like, I need a direction. And the director thinks, okay, well, let me go through my process first. It usually takes me a couple of days.
That's funny.
Like, what? Or if you need a rewrite on the set, well, yeah, you need time to go work on the rewrite, but you Imagine having to wait for a writer's process if you're on set. No, they have to write. So your process is going to take care of you. You don't need to take care of your process. I trust your process. I love your process, but I think it's going to take care of you because you spend so much time training to be good at the process. I think it's going to take care of you. I think it's part of your whole being. And you don't need to go through a checklist every time you do it. It's going to start to get in your way. It may have been the thing that got you to different levels, but it's going to start getting in the way, as it would for anyone.
I think that is great advice. I think that is amazing. So how can people get involved in your master classes and on your, Zoom coaching, and how can people get more of this? I know you come on once a month with me, but how can people get more of this?
Well, we are back to once a month, I hope.
Yes.
Good. Because you were very patient during that month or two as I was sort of getting things together on my end. So that's great. I'm excited.
And hopefully we'll be in person soon.
Yes, absolutely. We won't know what to do with ourselves once we're in person. But they can contact my assistant, and I don't know if you want to give them the email address at the end.
I'll put it down in the bio, and I'll also run it right now. So the email that you're seeing right now, you can contact.
Yeah, it's ASST@blueswanfilms.com. Obviously, ASST is short for assistant.
And then you're on social media, of course. You do daily little gems, little daily quick actor tips.
I don't do anything personal on social media.
Right.
It's simply for me a publishing platform, and I publish daily cinematic camera insights and tips and techniques, and I'm really proud of it. I know a lot of people who are sort of follow me. They say when they get up in the morning, they go right to my feed because they have an audition that day or they have something that day, and they know that whatever I've said is usually going to help them, whatever they're trying to do that day. I'm so proud of that.
So yeah, and your book is finally out in hardcover.
Yes, How to Steal the Scene and End Up Playing the Lead. And I'm not advocating anyone steals the scene, but I do suggest you play the lead. I'm just saying that if you use the techniques that are in the book, and it's not really a book you read, it's just a playbook of techniques for creating cinematic power on camera. If you use those techniques, don't blame me if you do end up stealing the scene or playing the lead. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. So thank you again for taking the time. And I've missed chatting with you. We've missed a month or two.
Yes.
Because of all the, the newness of trying to get through this quarantine, lockdown, stay-at-home orders, whatever you want to call it. But it was great to see you, and I think the tips that you gave today are just incredible. I think everybody's going to enjoy that, and I hope they contact you now that you're a little bit more available through the online thing. So I hope they contact you and get some more personalized tips from you and advice and help and coaching.
They can join from all over the country, all over the world.
All over the world now. You're an international instructor now. Yes. Yes, I now am an international speaker thanks to Zoom. But it's kind of funny what all has happened in the last 2 months. But anyway, well, John, again, great seeing you, and thanks for taking the time to do this. Make sure you follow him on his social media. Shoot him an email, leave comments telling how awesome today was. And most importantly, have an amazing week. Stay healthy, stay creative, and keep smiling.
It was a blast.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.